everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome to this weekend's live stream segment. Today I have with me Bonnie, and we will be having a conversation actually around toxic behaviors in relationships, kind of what that looks like, what to watch out for, how it makes us feel in the relationship, and also, looking forward.
Mm.
So at this point, I'd like to introduce Bonnie. Please introduce yourself to our live audience today.
Hi, guys. My name is Bonnie. Thank you for having me, Tiffany.
Great. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. For those that are on the YouTube live stream, you should see a chat function. We will be monitoring that chat. So if you'd like to participate in the conversation, we will be bringing in your comments as they're relevant. If it's a little bit of an off-topic question or off-tangent question, we may pause and answer that at a later time. And definitely we have some minutes at the end of the session to answer any questions from the audience. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So Bonnie, tell us a little bit about your dating history, just to get everyone's feet wet into your experiences.
My dating history is very lacking. I only had one boyfriend of, I think, 10 months. And when I do date, it only lasts 3 months or so.
Okay. Why would you say you're lacking though? Like everyone's experience is different.
Yeah, all my friends, they dated multiple times. They had multiple boyfriends. And I'm here just one.
Oh, okay. And how does that, I guess, make you feel though? Does it feel like do you feel like you're missing out or you need more experiences?
Sometimes I feel like I'm doing something wrong.
Oh, don't feel like that, girl.
No.
Everyone is on their own timeline. Let me tell you, I've dated probably not lacking compared to your definition. And I'm still single, like it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters how much you date. Although each dating experience, I think, has left me with some experiences to bring forward to future experiences. So
Hmm.
well, don't say that about yourself. All right. So I guess why would you like to share your stories? You mentioned you're a little lacking, but why are you interested in sharing your stories with us, with through Sav, and also with our audience here today?
I want to share my example so people can learn from it and avoid potential toxic relationships. Because if I could help one person, then I have no regrets.
Okay, I love that. I think also sharing your stories too helps you heal in a way. At least it helps me. So really appreciate you here being open and vulnerable with us today. Great. So before we delve into it, I guess what is your definition of like a toxic relationship or toxic behavior? And you can feel free to answer that in however you'd like, whether you want to give examples or if you want to pull
Uh,
up a textbook definition, that's okay too.
I feel like a non toxic relationship is a relationship where you can tell people about your feelings. You don't hesitate, you're completely comfortable. So I guess toxic is the opposite of that. You don't feel comfortable talking to your partner about your feelings. You don't feel safe in the relationship. Sometimes you want to leave, but you can't. Um, yeah, I think that's the definition of toxic relationship.
Okay, you mentioned you want to leave, but you can't. Can
Hmm.
you kind of explain more what that situation is like?
When I read up about toxic relationships on Reddit or people's experience, sometimes when they're in a relationship, they can't leave because of financial reasons or family issues. So I always recommend people always have a backup plan. Save up your own money, have a good support system going into the relationship, and keep your friends updated. If there's an issue, let your friends know so they can better help you.
Okay,
If you
so
don't talk, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
If you don't tell your friends after a few months of dealing with the toxicity of the relationship, it's hard for them to understand and better help you. So it's good to
Okay.
keep some of your friends updated.
So there's a couple themes that I'm pulling from here, right? It's like a reliance on your partner, right? Whether that's financially or whether that is shelter. And then there's also the theme around isolation from friends, right? Like those
Hmm.
are those are things that you should watch out for.
Mhm.
Okay.
I experienced isolation from friends for my first relationship. Um, he didn't want me to go out with friends that much. He needed to know who I was with, and that's one of the red flags.
Okay. And how did you respond to that though, right? Because, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but it sounds like you wanted to see your friends.
Mhm.
What was that interaction like?
At first, I thought it was because he's worried about me, but then I told my friends because I tell them everything, and they said, "Bonnie, that's a red flag. That's kind of toxic. You need to watch out for that." And that's what I did. The more I watched it, the more it became noticeable that he was toxic.
Okay. And I guess how long after you observed him and noticed these things did you finally decide to leave?
Since he was my first boyfriend, I stayed. I'm the type of person who stay and work things out even though it's toxic. Um, it got to the point where it was getting worse and worse and worse until one night I thought I was gonna die. So that was the moment where I left.
Wow. Would you mind sharing what you were feeling that night when you thought you weren't going to see another day?
That night, I felt like life flash in front of me. I thought of all my friends, my family, and I thought about like how they would feel if I wasn't here anymore. Um, and that gave me the strength to leave because it wasn't for me at that point. I needed to take care of my friends and family. That's why I left next day.
Mhm. Are you comfortable sharing the circumstances around that? Because
Yeah.
that's really scary, right? You're in a
Hmm.
relationship, you're with a partner that, you love, they love you, and then suddenly you feel like you're not going to see the next day. Like, what circumstance, um, what was that, if you don't mind sharing?
Like what exactly happened?
Yeah.
Or I was with a friend at her party, and me and the guy already like broke up, but he wanted to work things out, and I listened to him. So we were slowly working things out again. Um, I noticed that when other guys at the party in DC, they approached me, he would get upset and he would come around and try to get in between me and the people that are talking to me. I thought that was very immature. It was getting late, so I left the party. I wanted to go with my friends. Maybe they can drop me off. But he would not let me. He said, I don't want you to go out with your friends because they look like whores. And that was a major red flag. He wasn't like this when I dated him. But I was naive. My parents didn't teach me what to look out for. I didn't have much experience, so I didn't know how to walk away. Long story short, he drove me to an empty parking lot and he started screaming at me. 5 minutes, I was just sitting there crying. He was just screaming and screaming and screaming, saying, "You are gonna leave me. You probably find like he said some really bad curse words at me. And I don't want you to end up with another guy, so I'm gonna destroy you so another guy could not enjoy being with you ever again." And he didn't put his hands on me, but he was just screaming at me and cursing at me for 5 minutes while I was just sitting there crying. And he said, "Get out the car. I want you to walk home." And it was the middle of nowhere. Um, if you don't get out of the car, I'm going to go on the other side and drag you out. But I just sat there. Um, Eventually, he got out of the car. He went to the other side and he opened the door. He waited for me while I was crying. And then he's like, "That's what I thought." And then he went back to his side and we drove off. Um, you know how cell phones turn on if you get a notification?
Mhm.
I was in the car and my cell phone turned on. I looked at it and then I turned it off. Then he yelled at me again. I told him it's probably my mom. She's worried about me. Usually she goes out looking for me when it's getting late. Like
Mhm.
in toxic relationships, you have to be careful what you say and know what to say without getting them upset. So me saying that my mom was out looking for me, it triggered something in his head like, oh, if something happens to her, I'm gonna have the whole village on me, type of thing. So
Mhm.
that's why I said it. But it didn't stop him from being angry. I endured another 10 minutes of him yelling at me when he was driving until we got to where I parked. He parked behind my car and he wouldn't let me leave. Like, I went to my car, I sat down, and I can't reverse back. He came over to my side of the car, knocked. He wanted to apologize. My young, young butt rolled down the window and talked to him some more. Um, he says, we should try again. And I told him, no, it's getting late. I need to go home. Then he gets angry at me. He said, well, if you don't love me, you broke the promise. I need that promise ring back. I gave him the promise ring. Then he got angry that I gave it to him. Toxic people, they're very manipulative. No matter what you do, if you do it, they're gonna get angry. So even though he asked me for my ring back and I gave it to him, no hesitation, he got angry because I didn't hesitate. And he said, "Oh, all these months it was a lie. You don't actually love me." And then he threw it at me. He threw it at me so hard that the ring kind of cracked later on. Um, and then he he had the door open. He slammed my door so hard that the whole car shook. I've never been so terrified in my life. This was the middle of nowhere at night in the city. Um, I had to reverse and drive forward, reverse, drive forward to get out of the parking spot because he was parked behind me.
Mhm.
He hung on to the hood of my car, and I'm like, I don't want to kill someone tonight. But if he won't let go, I would have to push him off. So I gently pushed him off of my car. I got out to the main street and floored it, but he was driving 60 miles on a 25-mile per hour zone to get ahead of me. And later on, I realized that he got ahead of me because he wanted to hide somewhere to watch me pass him so he can tail me. He can follow me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you're ever in a situation like that, make a couple of right turns to make sure like no one's following you. That's my advice. I was shocked and I text my good friend, a good guy friend in the area. I said I'm with a good guy friend that knows my situation. This is why you should tell your friends everything for all the toxic stuff so they can easily catch up. So he's like, okay, I'll call the police. Send me your location. But before I did that, like I was at a gas station. Before I did that, I heard a knock, and he was next to me. He drove behind me and he went in the gas station, got out, knocked on the door. He told me to lower the window. I did. And he said, I got something in the back seat. Can you go get it? I'm not gonna get angry or anything. So I reached around, I grabbed his work clothes, and I gave it to him. Once I gave it to him, I realized he took my phone. And
Oh my gosh.
he turned it on. I guess he was already on. He looked at it and he saw I messaged my friend that I'm scared,
Mhm.
that I need help, and like the cops were coming. So he got really angry. Um, I think he pulled me out of the car He unlocked the car and he pulled me out. I was 20 at the I think 20 at the time. He
Oh my
pulled me
gosh,
out and he
girl.
started yelling at me. There was no one inside the gas station. I don't know what they were doing, but he just yelling at me, screaming at me. I remember reaching up to grab my phone because he threatened to throw it on the floor and crush it, so I can't reach out to anyone. I reached out and all of a sudden I felt something whip me across my face. He took his work shirt and he whipped me, and it just went across my face. That was the moment where I felt like I shattered. I would have never thought someone would physically hurt me. My parents gave me a good life. They took good care of me. How did I end up in this situation? And I think I sucked it up. I sucked it up and took my phone back, got in the car, and left. It was a whole night of him following me. It didn't end there. He followed me on the highway. He drove 100 miles per hour ahead of me, and then he, slowed down. Then he did it again. He drove around in circles. I was scared. I got to my neighborhood. I stopped in front of the neighborhood so he can get out. Once he got to my side, I floored it and drove to my house quickly, locked the door, said hi to mom and dad, went to my room, and just cried while he waited outside my house. My parents are like, "Why is he still out there? Is everything okay?" I told them, "Oh, he's just worried about me. He just wanted to make sure I'm home safe. We're just texting right now, saying goodnight." And that's it. My parents don't really know the full extent. But it's been 5 years since
I
then.
just I just wanted to reflect and say that you're so strong for leaving that relationship, and also so strong for making it through that night. You know, listening to your story. You're a great storyteller, by the way. I can almost envision myself in that situation, and that's terrifying. Um, that's terrifying. No one should have to go through that, especially at like such a young age of 20. Like we're children then. I felt like a child then. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It must not have been easy. Um, and I think it's really amazing that you want to share your story so that others don't fall in the same trap. Do you mind if I ask a follow-up question to that?
I don't mind.
You mentioned that you didn't tell your parents what happened, and to this day they're still not really sure what happened in that. Was there a reason that you didn't feel comfortable sharing what happened with your parents? I mean, that was a very traumatic experience.
They're always the type to victim blame. If, I guess, someone on the news commits suicide, they would say, "Oh, it's such a waste. They shouldn't have done that. They should have thought about the family and all of that." Wow, I'm like, they are fighting their own battles.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to tell my parents that, they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't have gone out so late. Um, you should have dated like better people." They wouldn't reassure me at all, so I didn't tell them.
I understand that. I totally understand that. And I don't know if that's a trend just with Asian American, or I guess my parents are Asian immigrant parents, not Asian American. Um, I can see some of the tendencies with my family too. Not all the time and not all the instances, but sometimes. I'm sorry, girl.
It's okay, as long as it helps other people, and it made me more cautious nowadays. So I try to see a blessing in everything.
That's good. So, how are you more cautious these days?
I don't believe a word guys say to me.
Okay. Well, we got to work on that because, you know, that man's um, demeanor does not represent all men. So, got to work on
Yeah,
that.
for me, it's not worth the risk. So I think the man that is right for me, he will be patient.
Okay.
Um, one of the guys I dated, he waited, I think 5 months for me to open up. So I
Okay.
appreciated that. So I know there's guys out there that would wait for me.
Okay. So, it's not that you don't trust anything men say, it's just you take a little bit longer to trust as quickly as maybe you used
Hmm.
to in the past. Okay. That's fair. That makes sense. Once you've been burned, you don't touch the burner as quick
Yes.
anymore. So that's great. So, what kind of things do you look out for now in order to avoid situations like that?
A big one is see how they treat their family members. If you're a guy, see how she treats her mom and dad, her brothers, you know, younger kids. And same for guys, I guess. Especially see how a guy treats his sister and his mom.
Okay.
With the guy I dated, he talked down on his mom sometimes. And that was a red flag that I noticed and ignored. But now that is a must. He must love his mom.
Okay.
Another sign is how he treats other people behind closed doors when you're not looking, how he treats his coworkers, how he treats his friends, how they interact with each other. It all tells you how they are as people.
Yeah. And I'd also like to add to like how someone treats strangers, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes people prioritize their loved ones, right, in their life, or they prioritize their friends. And maybe it's because they have those friends because those friends give them um, something beneficial. But I think it's really telling um, how a person interacts with strangers because that stranger, is they may not have any role in that person's life, although they shouldn't because they're a stranger. Um, and but they're a person, right? So
Hmm.
there's a message that came in from the live stream chat. It says Lonnie's looking for a guy that treats girls the way she treats Pokemon cards with lots of care.
How do they know?
Maybe, it was, um, maybe you can kind of explain what that reference is to.
So I deal with a lot of trading cards as my hobby
Okay.
slash part-time job.
Okay. What do you mean you deal with a lot of trading cards?
Other people's collections, you know,
Oh, okay,
all
okay,
over my desk. They send them in for me to take care of. So
okay.
there's Pokemon cards somewhere upside down. And I take really good care of them. That's why people trust me with cards that are worth $3,000, maybe even $7,000.
Okay.
And I guess Bonnie is looking for a guy that treats me the way I treat the Pokemon cards. A lot of care,
Yeah.
affection. Like they're a
Okay.
million dollars because I'm
Okay.
priceless.
You are, girl. You're priceless. All right. So, what kind of behaviors is that? Like, what would you like a man to? How would you like a man to treat you?
I don't ask for much. I just ask for respect. I want someone to just talk to me, care for me, be patient, and love my family too.
I feel that. I feel like I have similar needs when I'm approaching dating. And I had a friend comment about my like needs list, and this person said, "Oh, that sounds so basic though. Like, don't you have other credentials or like, should they be this tall? Should they be in this profession? Should they like this because I also like this?
Mhm.
I mean, for me personally, I think it's nice to share similar interests and similar lifestyles, but I think you're totally right. At the core, just to have someone to listen to you, to
Mhm.
not listen like follow your directions, but hear you, right? Empathize with
Mhm.
you, spend time with you, like that's the basis of human connection.
Yeah. My friends always ask me the same thing. How tall should he be? How much money? And I'm like, those are not really important. Money comes and goes.
Mhm.
If someone's willing to work hard, they're gonna make money. They're gonna be rich in life.
So you have no standards, just those couple things you mentioned.
Hmm.
Okay.
I went through something really bad, so all I want is just love. Just someone to love me.
Okay. And how has your experience impacted the way you view new relationships now? You mentioned that, you're looking for empathy, you're looking for someone to hear you. Um, and you also mentioned that you are not as trusting as quick, right?
Mhm.
So how does all of that roll up together to impact the way you view new relationships today?
I take it a lot more seriously. I don't play around. I'm very upfront with the guy. Um, Maybe too upfront. I tell them I'm looking for a serious relationship long term. So if you're here to play around, that's fine, but I'm not gonna be in the picture. And I tell that to them upfront, and
Okay.
that
And
definitely scared a lot of guys away.
how do they react?
They're like, "I respect that, but I'm not ready to commit." And I said, "That's fine. I wish you the best." And that's it. It saves a lot more headache in the long run, and they could find someone more suitable for them.
That's very mature of you, girl. Incredibly mature of you. I like that. I've actually been chatting with some of my friends recently, and we've been using the term fail fast, right? You got to
Uh-huh.
be straight up, upfront, so you can fail fast and not waste anyone's time. But that doesn't mean rush into it.
Yeah, life is too short.
Yeah, it is. Great. Um, so I guess how is your search nowadays?
It's good. I'm just keeping my options open. I'm not really looking for anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
If I meet new guys, we can talk back and forth, and maybe something will happen eventually, but I don't want to rush into anything.
Have you noticed any flags in your search these days uh, that you were able to recognize right away and say, "Oh no, I'm not going down that path again"?
That's a good question. I judge them more now on their profiles,
What profile?
like dating profiles.
Oh, okay, okay.
Like I talked to Brian about this. I told him I swipe left on every guy with no top, like they're shirtless. They show off their abs and
Okay.
everything. I swipe left because I'm looking for someone that's a family man, not someone who just wants to hook up.
Okay, so you think men who have shirtless pics just want to hook up?
Yeah, they want to show how fit they are.
Oh, okay, okay. Does that work for girls though? I mean, I'm not saying topless,
Mhm.
like no bra. I think
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, I
but
know it's not all guys, but from my experience, it's a lot to the point where
okay.
I don't even want to deal with it. So I just swipe it. I'm looking for someone who's just dressed nicely, out with friends,
Mhm.
family pictures, someone that I can just chill with, not rush things with.
Okay, okay. So someone maybe a little more modest.
I'm more picky now.
Okay. What else do you look for on dating profiles, or I guess how else do you reflect? How else do the red flags? How are they shown in dating profiles? That's kind of hard to see, right? Like on online dating profiles these days.
I like the app Hinge.
Okay.
This is not sponsored, by the way. I like Hinge because They ask you prompts that you can answer. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking for someone that's educated, you can go on that app and see how they answer those questions. Whereas with Facebook dating, they don't ask you questions. You can just put nothing on your bio, and you have people that don't even put in the effort
Mm-hmm.
in that platform. But on Hinge, you have to put in at least a little bit of effort. How much effort you put in, that depends on you. And that's what I like about it.
Okay. I didn't know Facebook had Facebook dating. What's
It's
that
new.
like? What's that like?
I don't recommend it. I
Okay.
I linked with like drug dealers and people just want to hook up. Just weird people on there.
Okay, okay. Don't use Facebook dating. All right. Sounds good. So to kind of loop back into the whole toxic relationships and behaviors, we talked a little bit about your experience, some of the red flags. You shared a
Mhm.
very touching story. Thank you again so much for that. Um, do you have any recommendations for anyone that might be, or might think they're in a toxic relationship, or might not know, right? Because you didn't mention how long you were in this relationship, but you were in it for quite some time. And
Mhm.
did you know the whole time that it was toxic, or did you just, realize culminating with that experience?
I realized the red flags, but I ignored it. So to
Okay.
those people that are out there, I recommend, of course, telling someone. If you have any doubts, talk to your friend or even a stranger. A good place are hotlines, domestic violence hotlines. They will talk about relationships with you too. You
Okay.
tell them a situation and they'll point out if it's a red flag or not. Just get multiple opinions so you can form your own.
How did you hear about these hotlines?
I felt stuck. I had no one to talk to about it. Like my parents would not listen, and sometimes, I tell my friends too much. I don't want to talk to them about it anymore. So I'm like, let's just start completely fresh. And I Googled it and I found a list of hotlines. I didn't take it seriously until I saw like it was free.
Okay.
No strings attached, just call, it's anonymous. I tried it and they helped me out a lot.
Okay. I've actually heard of the National Domestic Violence Hotline that is actually funded by the government.
Mhm.
Um, and, they have callers that accept calls as well. Is that the one that you had worked with, or you don't remember specifically?
I don't remember specifically.
Okay. But there are resources, right? And
Mhm.
hoping that we can do a quick Google search for that.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
I also do want to share too, I've gone through a toxic relationship and I also felt a little stuck. Um, I also wasn't comfortable telling all my family and friends because I didn't want them to view him a certain way. And they also didn't want them to view me a certain way, knowing that I was still in that relationship, even though he did those things to me, right?
Mhm.
So I reached out to a like Facebook group that I was in with some people that I felt comfortable talking to. And luckily, one person was a social worker, and so, or is a social worker. And so she actually really helped me talk through, what was happening in my relationship. And because she's a social worker, she has the knowledge to give me the resources to follow criminal justice procedures too. So there are those avenues for those, that need that type of protection, right? When I say
Mhm.
criminal justice, I mean like getting a protective order, or you may have heard it as a restraining order.
Mhm.
That type of order will protect you. It will not allow that person to come close to you, so that you can feel safe moving forward after that relationship.
That reminded me. I did want to file a restraining order against him, but I mean, I asked my mom about it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I didn't tell her the situation, she says if you do something like that, that's gonna put you at even more risk. Cause there's a time um in between where he can hurt you before that happens.
Mm-hmm. Um, can you clarify the time in between? Like, would you tell him that you're filing a restraining order?
I don't know the whole process, but my mom made
Okay.
it seem like they would let him know that I was
Okay.
filing it, and then he can retaliate.
Okay, I see, I see. Yeah, so I'm unfortunately familiar with that. So I can explain a little bit how it works. So you would have to file a petition to your local court. So I had to fill out a petition, speak in court to kind of explain my case, and then they grant you a temporary protective order. So you keep this like paper with you that says this person can't come near you. And if they do bother you, you can call the police and the police can kind of take care of that, right?
Okay.
But the temporary protective order is just to allow time for the person that you're petitioning against to come to court and speak their case, right? So the temporary order is in place until that person is served. So basically, it depends on the jurisdiction and the area, but the sheriff here in Maryland will serve those protective orders. In other states, it could be the constables. So it really depends on the location, but they basically being served means they receive a sheet of paper to say, hey, you have to come to court to speak on this protective order case, right? This petition.
Hmm.
And then they have the option to either come to court or they cannot. And if they don't come to court, that means they accept the protective order and then the judge will
Okay.
grant your protective order. Um, or or they will come to court with a lawyer and then you will actually also have to be present in court or you can have a lawyer speak on your behalf. So I'm really hoping that you won't have to go through this or
Yeah,
anyone, that is viewing has to go through that. But that's kind of on a high level how that procedure works.
that's nerve-wracking. You have to see the abuser.
Yeah. So in my instance, I luckily didn't have to. And for those that are victims of domestic violence and even sexual assault, there are
Mhm.
many uh, groups that will represent you in court where you don't have to pay for their services, right? Because you are, I don't like to use the word victim, but you are a receiver, right, of some traumatic experiences. So luckily, I was represented by a lawyer. He was really great. And we had a weird situation where he was served, but we weren't aware that he was served. And then this person just showed up in court that day. Um, and so my lawyer had spoken on my behalf. I don't have to necessarily be there. And then
Okay, good.
that case was closed. Yeah.
Okay, good to know that that was an option. You don't have
Yeah.
to go, just have your lawyer go.
I think generally it's better to have the client go, but the situation was such that uh, this person that I was petitioning against, they wanted to fight the protective order, right? They wanted to say like
Uh-huh.
to null it, and my lawyer said, "Well, I can get my client here in 30 minutes," and then they changed their mind and said, "No, no, 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 we'll discuss it, and we'll move forward." So because it would be harder for them to win the case if I came and testified. Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm
But we
glad we're
will,
in a better place now.
yeah, but we will be posting some resources in this live stream afterwards, so that our viewers, if needed, can have access to the hotlines that we had mentioned. We'll also post some information about protective orders if people are interested to hear about that too. Great. So I'll take a look at the chat here. I don't know if there are any messages that have come in. I don't see any. It's been a really great time chatting with you, Bonnie. And I know it must have not been easy for you to share your story. So, again, really appreciate that. Is there any final messaging that you'd like to leave with our viewers or any other comments and pieces that you'd like to share with us?
Things will always get better. Don't give up.
I like that. Great. Um, So given, no extra comments from the chat here and given the time here with you, Bonnie, I think we will sign off for now. I will allow you to, say any final goodbyes and thank yous. If you'd like to throw in some social media plugs, feel free to do that as well.
If you guys like Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or want to talk to me some more, check out my Instagram, Bo Dangers. I also have a YouTube channel, Bo Dangers. My
Okay.
Twitter is Bo Dangers. Everything is Bo Dangers.
Okay. All right. We'll have that posted in the description of the video as well. Get everybody linked up with you.
Thank
Great.
you for having me, Tiffany.
Yes, thank you so much, Bonnie. I hope you're able to have a great rest of the day, given some of the tough topics that we talked about today. Um, for those that are watching, thank you for joining us here with Bonnie. My name is Tiffany. I don't know if I mentioned that. And we will catch you all next week, same time, same place. If you like this content, please subscribe, like the video, comment, and we'll catch you all next week. Thank you, everyone.